We're having an off-air conversation about the heat. These two guys bring it, and it's going to get hot in the next few days. I wanted to mention Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense in studio with us, along with Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn. I'm going to make a quick mention too. My friend Patrick is listening. He's out of state, but he listens to this segment every week. Every week while he's on air. Patrick is a retired undercover federal narcotics investigator. He once joked with me that he even keeps firearms in the freezer at home. He's got them hiding in every corner of the house, essentially to make sure that if he ever has to deal with a burglar, the burglar is going to discover he's the wrong guy to pick on.
Hey, it's summer. If you want to take the gun out of the freezer and stick it in your waistband holster, that might feel pretty good.
Cool you down a couple of
Yeah.
degrees, bring the sweat level down. So I wanted to say hi, a shout out to Patrick this morning as well, because he listens. And last week when I was at the first responders exposition, I had people coming up. A couple of them said right away that this is the 1 hour every week of radio that they carve out time and they don't let anybody else bother them.
You're talking first responders, you're talking firemen, law enforcement, EMTs, that kind of thing. If you carry a handgun, concealed, on your person to protect yourself, you are your first responder, and that's kind of another way to look at it too. So
Yeah, I saw a guy writing in a newspaper this week. He lives in Indiana, but he said that in rural Indiana, you can wait 30 minutes to get a response. So you are indeed your first responder. And then he mentioned he used to carry, he had an ankle holster. Somebody at work saw it one day and he lost his job. And he said, I thought to myself, better that I lose the job than don't have any defense.
and that's right. A lot of people think that way. I was listening to another gun type show the other day, and the guy was talking about being able to carry at work, and it's in his mind. I know people need to work, people need to make money, support their families, but he's like, why work for a place that is going to put your safety on the back burner?
Yeah.
Why work for a place that wants you to go and there's a chance that you're going to be killed while you're there?
The other side of that coin is don't purchase firearms from guns made in states that have restrictive gun laws. Like, why would we support the economy of New York State by buying guns made in New York or Connecticut? Make those manufacturers, they can move to Idaho and make their guns.
Remington Arms, as I understand it, is going to pull up stake in New York and head out.
There's a few of them that have left some of those
Yeah,
straight
and
states.
but I think that's important to remember. If they're made in California, if they're, we always talk buy in America,
Mhm.
and there's good Americans that live in all those states, but their legislature, their tax money goes to fund legislation that ultimately is coming after your gun rights here in this state. Their senators and their congressmen are out there actively trying to put gun laws in place to restrict your right to own firearms here in the state of Idaho. So don't buy guns from states if they're manufactured in a state with restrictive gun laws. Money talks, just like your congressmen and senators here and local politicians. If they're not going to get your votes, they're not going to support something. It's all about the dollar. So don't give your dollars to people who are going to go and use them against you.
There was, in fact, Beretta simply packed up and left Maryland to go to Texas because they realized that it was bad for their business image to be in a state where there was such hostility to the product that was being manufactured.
Yeah, Kimber makes a beautiful firearm, but
Yeah.
they're still manufactured in New York.
Didn't Mag pull up and leave Colorado too?
They did.
Yeah. It took them a few years, but they got out of there finally.
Yeah, and I love those guys. I just had a couple in my shop from California yesterday, and I'm like, "Hey, folks, welcome to town." And they're like, "Yeah, we're from a bad place." And I'm like, "Where's the bad place?" And they're like, "A bad somewhere where we can't own all this cool stuff you've got hanging on the wall." And I'm like, "California?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, I love the beaches, but I try not to even vacation there if I can avoid it, just because I don't want to spend my money in a state that's going to work against me."
Well, and you can narrow that down too, and just here locally, as far as if there's a place where they have a sign, they don't want your firearm in there, they don't want you to carry. If it's just not, I haven't come across a whole lot of places in the valley, but I'm sure there's a few. You don't have to spend your money there either. If they won't, they don't want your gun in there, they don't want your gun with you, they don't want to take your, self protection seriously, then you don't have to spend your money there. Take your dollars elsewhere.
My friend Patrick is listening, and he's responded. He says, just bought Jules, that's his wife. She's a lawyer. He said, I just bought her a North American 22 Magnum Pocket 5 shot pistol with laser style grip. She said her 38 Snubby was too heavy in her purse holster. He says, God, I love her. Maybe you can do a pocket pistol segment. And he said, wear shorts, use fanny pack. I'm old school ladies, don't want my shorts falling down.
Yeah, well, I've sold 3 of those North Americans in the last couple weeks. I mean, if you wanted a little, in fact, my girlfriend's dad for Father's Day, that's what we got him, was a 22 mag combo. They are tiny, fit in the palm of your hand, and something that you can carry enough that if something, if you had to defend yourself, you could. If you're a jogger, if you're a backpacker, if there's a noise out in the yard, but you want to strap on a holster or have a gun in your hand, literally can throw these in your front pocket. Diamondback makes a decent one. Glock makes a decent one. Most of these manufacturers make a pretty pretty small gun. The Glock 43 is kind of where I would start the small carry gun and go down from there. But Diamondback makes some teeny little 380s and stuff that are pretty reliable. The problem you have with a small carry gun is reliability. Is most
Yeah,
finding one of those that'll run is hard. So going with a revolver like the North American, they're always going to work because it's
right.
a revolver.
I think I should look into something small like that for when I decide I want to go jogging or something. Because I'll be jogging these. I'm into trail running now, and I get out in the desert. I get out in the wherever I'm at, away from everyone, and you meet some interesting people out there sometimes. And I can't really jog with my VP9. It doesn't work out real well.
Yeah.
Maybe you just slung something over your shoulder.
Oh, there you go. Get my old AR or something.
I think that's another point to touch on too, is like talking about some of these places have no gun signs because people have been in there carrying irresponsibly.
Right.
So I think it's just like anything with rights come responsibilities, and a lot of people push against that. But if you're going to carry a gun, I mean, we talk about this every week. Carry responsibly. No one, if you come into my store and you're carrying and you left and I never knew you were carrying, that's probably the best situation ever. It means you're carrying right. You want to carry in a good holster where you can get to your gun if you need it, but you don't need to be waving around, flapping it around. And people say, well, they shouldn't be uncomfortable. People have had different varying experiences with firearms, and there might be some people that are uncomfortable, not because they're anti-gun, just because maybe somebody gave them too big a gun to shoot when they were little. Maybe they saw somebody get shot with a gun accidentally. There's a lot of things that could tie into that. So, just carry to protect yourself and those around you, and nobody needs to know.
I was going to say, don't come in and say, I think the barrel's dirty. Can you look down it? Yeah, that probably isn't the right way to do it.
I have people come in. I had a poor lady, super nice lady. She had 2 kids with her. She came in to pawn a rifle that her husband had given her, and from the time she got out of her car to walking in, she's carrying that rifle, and it's pointed at me the whole time. I can see through the glass doors. I meet her at the door. Hey, how can I help you? Open up the bolt. The gun is loaded, and the hammer is cocked. And she had no idea because she doesn't know anything about guns. But he sent her out the door with that, and she's in a car with 2 kids. She's walking around with this gun. So yeah, be responsible with your firearms.
Wanted to point out telephone number for reaching our show today 736 0300 736 0300. We're coming up on 9:15 and it's 60. Todd Eccles, Forrest Anderson, Bill Colley with you this morning. Can We're going to touch on one item which is a national item and maybe spend a few minutes on it, and then we're going to talk about some upcoming events too as well this morning. There was a story out, I saw it I think yesterday. There are 200 people who've signed on in the House of Representatives for a national reciprocity bill. The number's up to 200. They'd need some more than that, I think, to pass it in the House. So they're still working on that, and Senate approval would be needed. A lot of pros and cons to this because we're aware that if you get your enhanced carry permit, you can pretty much, if I said this off air, you can plot your route from here to Florida without having any worries. But there are some states out there. Look, I don't agree with a lot of people in Massachusetts about anything, but if they decided they'd want to opt out, the idea is states, we don't want to set precedents where the federal government is telling every state they've got to do something. That argument comes up a lot, but national reciprocity would be quite a big step, wouldn't it?
It would be, but then again, you got to look at it as well. And I think we talked about this a while back. Do you want the federal government to get in there regulating it that much, or should this be like a states' rights type of thing? Personally, I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted on this one. I'd almost rather, and Forrest mentioned it earlier off the air. I'd almost rather him go after that Safe Hearing Act and do this do the legalize suppressors and that kind of stuff over this national reciprocity bill. Not because it would hurt my business, because I think it says in the national reciprocity bill that for you to carry in other states, you actually have to have a permit from your home state. But so I'm not worried about that. But it just the government, if you give them a little bit, they're going to take a mile if they can get it. And I think they just would try to regulate the heck out of that every chance they got.
And I understand too. They're concerned because members of Congress want to be able to carry back and forth into the District of Columbia and then out into neighboring states. So they're thinking about themselves.
My
Oh
my
yeah,
yeah, of course. And my only thought on that is not my only thought, but my my major thought on that is, there's some basic rights. There's some things that the states need to decide, but there's some things that need to be universal throughout this country. And I think the Second Amendment is one of those things in the Constitution that applies to everyone in every state. And if those people want to carry, and if I want to carry as a member of this country, then or a citizen of this country, then yeah, of course I should be able to carry there as well. But I don't want the federal government regulating that. But at the same time, if it gives me the right to carry wherever I go and defend myself, no matter what state I'm in, then yeah.
it'd be if it passes, if it goes through. I'm not against it. I'm not for it necessarily. I'm kind of on the fence, but it'd really be interesting to see kind of what comes with it and what happens, because
Yeah, it does make me nervous a
I'm
little
sure
bit.
there's stuff in there that we definitely don't see.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you could do this in a bill that's a few pages long, but if it comes out and it's several hundred, then you got to start worrying about what else is packed in
You got
there.
to read the bill to.
Yeah.
Yes, we've heard that one before. We want to point out we've got a short break coming up. We'll talk a little bit about contact information for both Forrest and Todd in just a few minutes, as well as some upcoming events too. And I do want to point out you can reach the show by dialing 7360300. In fact, speaking of contact, we'll start over here with Forrest. Get that out of the way right now.
Washington Street Pawn, 321 Washington Street. Our phone number is 208-735-0012. Stop in the store. We've had a ton of cool new things in there, everything from coins to computers to jewelry to lots of guns. If you don't see it, we can order it. Yeah, come in and just say hi. Just check us out.
Patriot Defense. Find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense. You can call me, text me. Area code 620-794-6223. That's area code 620-794-6223. My next Idaho Enhanced Permit class is on July 29th. I'm starting to fill that up. Give me a call if you're interested in that, and I'd answer any questions you have, get you on the list, and make you have a good summer.
And I want to point out we're at 58, although the temperatures over the next few days are scheduled to start spiking back toward the triple digit area. Actually, Todd may talk about that in a little while too.
Yeah.
He's in a road race. 920. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Joining me in the studio, we've got Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story this morning. It's 9:22, and we're at 59 on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. A question or comment about firearms this morning, about training and perhaps various models, feel free to give us a call. Telephone number 736-0300, 736-0300. I wanted to point out, as we were sitting here earlier talking about certain models of firearms and what you might take if you are running a trail or you're out hiking. And actually, one of the great things about training is it helps you get proficient at. I've seen Forrest literally hit a moving target repeatedly, and hitting a moving target has to be one of the most difficult things that anyone, people who, this is why people do practice trap shooting and the like, is because something that's moving is not as easy to hit as something that a few years ago, we talked about this, I think, on the program once before. There was an episode of Top Gear where they went to a place in Virginia where you can race cars. That's your vacation. But you have to hit a moving target on one course as you're driving. And nobody could do it. So either if you're moving or the target's moving, this is not something that looks easy in movies, but it doesn't happen in real life very easily.
And it gets harder when you're moving and the target's moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of places that not even our local law enforcement don't really get an opportunity to train on those kind of things. There is a facility here in the valley, Shaw Shooting. They have some of that stuff, but yeah, it's one of those things you got to get out. We always talk about carrying, and we talk about taking class. You go see Todd and take that class. But
Hmm.
thing is then you have to continue to train. Just because if you took a class, you get your permit. 3 years later, you need to use that gun that you're carrying, but you haven't shot since that
Yeah.
class. None of that's none of that's going to be there with you. Shooting's all about muscle memory. It's about knowing when you go to your waist where that gun is, knowing how your hand is on the gun when you bring it to the ready position, and then where your finger is on the trigger as you press out to the target. Those are things that you have to A, learn by taking a class to do it the right way, and then B, practice afterwards so that you can do it when you need to do it.
I just speaking of that muscle memory. We've talked before. We've got a company that is manufacturing holsters in northern Idaho, and there was a video that was actually making the rounds on Facebook yesterday. Uh, this new holster where it clips onto your belt, but you actually carry inside your pants.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And I was looking at that, but I thought even to do that, you can't. It's difficult because it's partially concealed, is what it is. But if you have like a big overshirt on, or a hooded sweatshirt, you still have to fumble around to get a hold of that thing.
Well, there's and I teach that in one of my classes. In fact, I got an upcoming class that we're going to talk about that, and it's if you got it's called a cover garment. You got your t-shirt tucked in over it, or a jacket, or a sweatshirt, or whatever it is. There's a couple different methods of clearing that cover garment and getting to your firearm all at the same time. And it's something that you need to try to do. You need to practice. You need to know how to do it. You need to know how to clear it properly. Last thing you want to do is get your shirt fumbled in with your gun as you're drawing
Hmm.
it. You could cause a negligent discharge, drop your gun when you need it the most. Lots of bad stuff. Things can happen. So there's definite techniques to that, and I can teach you something like that. Give me a call, let me know, and I can get you in one of my classes where we talk about that. It's all part of it. Forrest says you don't take your permit class and then never pick up your gun again for 3 years. Unfortunately, there's a good portion of people that do that, and I tell them in my class, I don't care if all you can afford is 5 rounds. Go out and shoot 5 rounds a month. If you can't even afford to take a class, but you can afford to go to the gravel pits and shoot at pumpkins, paper plates, something, do that. You need to develop that muscle memory. Every month, shoot something. 50 rounds, 100 rounds is better than 10, but 10 is better than nothing. You need that when you need that gun, you need to be able to draw it and know how to use it. When someone kicks open your door at 2 o'clock in the morning, if you keep your gun on your nightstand, you need to be able to reach over, pick it up, and understand how to use that. You don't have time to go, man, that was 2 years ago since I shot this thing last. Okay, what did Todd say about all this? How do I use this?
And is your gun going to function?
Yeah.
If you haven't used it in 2 years, it's going to be dry.
Yep.
You know, you
Hmm.
need to make sure. I've had people bring in their carry guns to shop, say they need help cleaning them. That gun hasn't been out of the holster in 3 years. It's rusted.
Yeah.
There's lint inside the gun because they haven't ever cleaned that thing and they've never had it out of the holster. You need to practice those skills, and you need to keep that firearm ready to go, and you need to be familiar with it. But that's one huge problem is people are taking the initial classes, they're not taking any follow-up classes, they're not taking any tune-up classes, and they're not going out and practicing. You can practice dry firing in your home and get a ton of practice. You can practice with no ammunition. If you
Yep.
have the gun, most handguns, modern handguns that aren't 22 caliber, you can dry fire a million times and not hurt them at all.
And a lot of your top shooters will tell you that that's where they get most of their benefit from is dry fire practice. Learning that trigger. They'll tell you that is probably one of the most important things to do if you want to shoot effectively and be on target and learn how to fire your weapon.
We've got to take a short break again in just a moment, but before we do, we'll ask you guys for your contact information again.
Yeah, Patriot Defense. You can call me or text me. Area code 620-794-6223. It's area code 620-794-6223. Find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense. Message me there. Give me a call. Shoot me a text. I can get you in the next class. maybe we can get you in a class where you can learn to draw that firearm efficiently.
Washington Street Pond, 321 Washington Street, right across the street from Platt Electric here in Twin Falls. You can find us on Facebook under Washington Street Pond. Give us a call, stop in. We've got a ton of really cool stuff right now we've been taking in.
And we want to point out too as well, it's more than just firearms.
Oh, we got laptops. I've got if you need a laptop for your kid for this coming school year, I have just a bunch and I'll make you a great deal on them. We have game system, Xbox Ones, PS4s, and everything in between. The draws should be out any day.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that to happen.
Oh, everyone is.
Youth rifles, we have a lot of really cool rifles in there at a great buy right now.
I stopped by the other day and dropped off some business cards, and he's got a lot of stuff in there right now. He was with a customer, and I kind of wandered around a little bit, and I was looking at some of your tools you had over in the corner
Yeah,
there.
a lot of tools too. So.
We've got more coming up. One more half hour today. Firearms talk today on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. We have 59. Our studio guest, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, and we have Forrest Anderson with us. As we said last week, the prodigal gun host has returned from Washington Street Pond. It's 9:34. Bill Colley with you, too, as well on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We're at 60. If you've got a comment or question related to firearms, models, or also training, feel free to give us a call at 736-0300. You mentioned for us a big event coming up before we got on air.
Yeah, it's coming up tomorrow. We sponsor a team competition shoot every year at the Magic Valley Practical Shooting Association. We have our own range out there in Jerome, and we've got some teams coming from Boise, some teams coming from Idaho Falls. If you wanted to come out and just spectate and watch some really good shooters on some really interesting courses, we've got people shooting off little balance beams, and we got guys running. We got stages that start with them having to load their magazine before they, we got a lot of really cool stuff, and there'll be guys shooting pistol caliber carbines and these really cool limited and open guns with the sights on them and the muzzle brake. So if you wanted to come out and watch some really good shooters show their stuff and see maybe where you could get with a little practice, come on out and check it out. It starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's at the Jerome Gun Club. And in that club, there's several different, there's the cowboy range, there's the rifle range, there's the shotgun range. But right before you get to the rifle range on your right-hand side is the Magic Valley Practical Shooting Association. So come out there and check it out. I think they're going to have lunch out there, and should be a good time. Should be a lot of great shooters. If you want to see guys that can really shoot handguns and carbines, come out and check it out.
Of course, we apparently they're working on a second area where people can go shoot firearms in Jerome County. We've talked about that before on air. Somebody said to me the other day, "Why in Twin Falls County are we still without an excellent sort of resource like that?" I know that people, Jack Johnson and others, have been trying to promote the idea, move us in that direction, but Twin Falls County, as big as it is, doesn't have a lot of options for people.
Not as far as now. Are you talking just somewhere to shoot, or like an indoor
Yeah.
type range?
Somewhere to shoot.
Just somewhere to shoot. Yes and no. I think we don't, but I think a lot of people associate shooting with doing stuff on the weekends. They'll go do it when they're camping. They'll do it when they're out off road driving their trucks or driving their ATVs, that kind of thing. So there are some gravel pits in some different places that people do go. And granted, it's not as sanctioned as the Twin Falls area gun shooting spot, but I do think people find places to go and shoot. Now, if we had a nice area in Twin Falls County to shoot, I think that'd be fantastic. I'm sure people would use it. I think about I get more and more women taking my class, and I think a lot of them will be single moms or something like that. You know what? They're not going to jump on their ATV, or they're not going to drive their Honda Accord out into the desert to the gravel pit to go shoot. They do need a place to shoot, and I think it'd benefit those kind of people greatly. It would benefit everyone, but they would have a place to go and shoot.
I think the benefit would be for everyone, because when you go out in the desert and shoot, and you don't know who's over the next berm, what they're shooting, what their training is,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Right.
it's kind of a Wild West show out there. The other thing is if you go out and take your kids and shoot, you go out in the desert, you have a little spot that you go, pick up your targets, pick up your
Yep.
trash.
Yep.
Every year this 4-wheel drive group of the Magic Valley goes out in that desert, picks up just truckloads of trash. People drag dryers and televisions and everything you can think of out there, and they shoot it and then they leave it lay. They just jump in their car and drive away. Don't do that. If we want to continue to enjoy the rights that we have and the places that we do have to shoot, you need to pick up a ton of private ground that used to be open for hunting
Yep.
and shooting is now closed off because people can't be responsible. So be responsible.
I was thinking we have a regular listener who, all the way out in Minidoka County, the issues are the same, though. There aren't many places where people can go practice. Now, Blaine County, which may be among the more liberal counties in southern Idaho, you can do it there. They've got a club. But it seems that in a lot of our neighboring counties as well, people just don't feel they have the opportunity.
Rupert has a shooting complex.
Yep.
Have you ever been there?
I've never been there.
I never have either, but they have a Facebook page and they do lots of stuff out there, and I think it gets used quite a bit. And another thing, you were talking about dragging TVs. I've never once thought about dragging a TV out into the desert or your refrigerator out into the desert and shooting at it. Why do people do that? It's beyond me.
You're telling a Raiders fan here that he has plenty of reasons.
The thing is like these YouTube videos do it. There's so much bad information
Yeah.
and bad training out there on YouTube. I mean, there's a lot of really bad stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But people will see them do it on YouTube, and then they'll want to go duplicate the process. And it just boils down to being responsible. If you're a
Yeah.
grown person and you have a driver's license, surely you can make a decision to pick up your trash and take it with you. No one wants to take hate to sound like my grandpa, but nobody wants to take responsibility. Have some responsibility. Let your kids see you do that too, because they will replicate that.
We talk about that while you were gone, when you were taking your little hiatus there. We talked about picking up your garbage almost on every single show, I think.
But you've got to keep reminding people.
You do.
We have a short break. Your telephone calls too as well. If you're patient, we'll get to those in a couple of minutes. It's 59 right now. Todd Eccles, Forrest Anderson, and Bill Colley in studio, and my trifocals here. It's 59, I think. I got to get them adjusted, I guess. Couple of guests in studio with us this morning. Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense and Forrest Anderson joining us from Washington Street Pawn. We'll talk a little bit more about their contact information in just a couple of minutes. It's 9:44. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story. We're at 59 on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com, and we've got a caller with us. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air.
Bill, I'm older and I've hunted quail to mountain lions, but years ago they never talked about ear protection. I am now paying the price.
Yeah, that's a good point to be made.
Yeah, you should never go out and shoot without hearing protection. In fact, whether it's taking a class or even hunting, they make such small, slim hearing protection now, and they actually make some stuff that's amplified that helps you hear ambient sounds better, but muffles the sound of a gunshot. Yeah, that's a must. And for new shooters, it's going to help with their
flinch.
Yeah, with their flinch. A lot of the flinch comes not from the recoil of the gun, but from the sound the gun makes.
Oh yeah, and when we were shooting indoors a few months back, and that it's even louder in there. And in the wintertime, we'll be back indoors. But yeah, that noise, a lot of people will jump when they first shoot. In fact, even outside, some people are sound sensitive. So I've actually, I think in my last class, I had a lady that used the little foam earplugs, plus she put a set of muffs on over the top of them. Some people are just really sound sensitive, but I've spent a lot of time in duck blinds and whatnot, and I wasn't real smart about it early on, and been muzzle blasted a lot. And I've got one ear that if I don't have hearing protection on and someone fires a gun and I'm in the wrong spot, it feels like someone's stabbing into my ear with an ice pick.
Wow.
And so it's important. Save your hearing.
Die Hard 3 was on TV last weekend, and there's a scene where I guess it's Danny Glover is driving, and oh, heck, he's got a house up here just north of us. Bruce Willis. He's actually shooting out of the car. Now, can you imagine the noise that would make in an enclosed automobile?
Oh, I can imagine.
And they're acting like there's nothing to it. Of course, in the movies, they're not hearing anything. You're dubbing in some sound later on that goes pew, pew, pew. But the noise would have to be deafening in an enclosed automobile.
Yeah, and even, I talk about this when I sell handguns to people. We try to think of everything, and a lot of people think, well, I want a snub-nose 357. Well, I'm like, if you shoot that in your hallway, in your home, it's going to be like a flashbang going off. You're going to be blind from the muzzle flash, and you're going to be stunned from the sound of that gun. You need to think about other things when you purchase a firearm. You need to think down the road. If I'm going to use this in my home, is this a gun that I'm going to be able to handle the muzzle flash? You shoot a firearm with a big muzzle flash in a low light situation, you just flashbanged yourself. You're going to be blind for
Ear
Oh
a
yeah.
protection
few seconds.
isn't expensive. We should point that out. It's not, it's not going to break the bank at all either.
No, and then and your story right there, just shooting in your house, especially or something like that, is just another reason for them to push that Safe Hearing Act through and be able to allow suppressors, stuff like that. It's all about safety. It's not about being James Bond. It's about being safety,
We have
Yeah.
safe.
another caller with us. It's 946. Caller, you're up next on KLIX. Go ahead.
Hey, you were talking about locations for shooting. There's not many of them. I just kind of wanted to let your listeners know there is a public shooting range in Gooding County, about 3-4 miles west of Gooding on the way to Bliss. As soon as you cross the Tuttle River, there's a big sign. The BLM provides it.
Oh, nice.
Just clean up after yourself, because a couple of years ago it got so bad they almost shut it down.
I think I've been out there. It's kind of a gravel pit area, right?
Yeah, it's the gravel pit area, and there was, like you say, there were TVs and hard drives and all, and they went out and cleaned it up, put a sign said, if you don't pick up after yourself, they're going to shut it down. But
Hard drives.
There is a place to go shooting publicly.
We
Thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Hard drives. Now we know what happened to all the Clinton emails. They're all out somewhere in Gooding County. Telephone number 736-0300, 736-0300. I've seen these people that when they go out to the racetrack, they've got the ear protection for their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it costs a few bucks, right, for a lot of these phones
You
that
can
go over your head.
you can buy foam earplugs for a quarter.
Yeah, you can buy foam earbuds for a quarter. You can go to Harbor Freight and buy inexpensive electronic earmuffs for like $12, if that, or you used to be able to. And that's the ones I use, and they seem to work just fine if I keep the batteries changed.
And if you break them at that cost, or even the earplugs often are disposable. Buy
Yeah.
more, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's I have those little orange plugs, on the string. I've got those everywhere. I've got a bunch in my work truck. I got a bunch in each one of my vehicles because I never know exactly. If I go, am I going to take my wife's car? Am I going to take my truck? Am I going to take my Scout? I never know. I may forget some. So they're easy just to shove in the glove compartment, and you have them right there for when you need them.
And eye protection isn't expensive either, from what I've seen.
No, and it's a must.
Yes.
Those bullets frag, you shoot steel. I mean, I've seen frag come off of shooting paper before. If that jacket starts to peel and coming out of the barrel and it hits something, it's going to come back. And I've been hit in the face a ton of times with
Yep.
bullet fragments. So make sure you wear something over your eyes.
And we're not talking just we're talking any caliber, even a 22. I've seen the little 22 jackets come back and do all kinds of damage.
Yeah, 22 is probably the worst for ricochet. I mean, it's
Yeah.
one of the worst ones. So usually a 9mm or something like that, you'll get a piece of the copper jacket coming back.
Yep.
But a 22, you'll get that whole little lead bullet coming back your way.
I've
So-
seen people shooting and not even realize. All of a sudden, I look at them, I was like, "You're bleeding. What's going on?" And usually they have just like a little tiny slit on their cheek.
And that's
So-
because of the speed that's coming back at you at. I mean, that's
Well, it's from the bullet,
Yeah.
impacting whatever it's impacting, and then it can't go forward because whatever was
Right.
there stopped
So
it.
everything
So it's
comes
got to go
back.
somewhere. So it's got to come backwards. So
about 10 minutes away from 10 o'clock. Top story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and News Radio 1310.com. And we've got 60, I got to tip my glasses here, 61. We're talking about eye protection. Sometimes you need just good eyes to start with.
one thing I kind of want to mention is the 4th of July is coming up. It's right around the corner. So there's going to be a lot of people with fireworks. So at this point, you would expect me to say, be careful of your fireworks. Well, of course, I want you to be careful of your fireworks. Second of all is having kids and just enjoying this great country and the freedoms we have. So put your dogs inside. Make sure they're safe because they don't know what's going on. They don't understand.
Mine runs around the house looking for ducks.
Yeah. A lot of dogs get scared. Dogs run off. So be responsible with your pet and put your pet away. Second thing is don't be grumpy granny. I mean, if someone's going to light some fireworks that night, let people celebrate a little bit. I mean, if they're being responsible and they're not shooting them at your house and they're shooting some stuff off, do that. Also, be respectful for law enforcement. They've got to enforce some laws. So if you're doing fireworks in an area that you're not supposed to and they come and tell you not to, heed what they're telling you. I think this is the biggest thing is for kids, showing your kids how your kids mimic your behavior. And they're going to be watching you. When you have an encounter with law enforcement or with one of these first responders, show them the right way to do that. If you have to use a gun in a shooting situation and the law enforcement shows up, lay down on your face,
Do what you're
put your
told.
hands up, and do exactly what they tell you to do because they're doing their job. They're coming onto a situation.
They don't understand.
If you're pulled over and get a speeding ticket, we always complain about millennials not taking responsibility for anything and crying. If you get pulled over and you were speeding, talk to the officer. Maybe he'll let you off. Maybe he won't. If he doesn't, take your ticket. You were speeding. Let your kids show that you're responsible for your actions and help them learn to be responsible for their actions. Yesterday, I had an encounter with a local business, someone I've done business with for 10 years. They did some damage to my vehicle. I pointed it out. They immediately turned it on me, and then finally in the end, they're like, "Well, let us refund your money." I'm like, "You know what? You've accused me of lying. You can keep the $68 because my integrity isn't worth that. If yours is worth $68, then keep my money. I just won't be back here." When you have these encounters, whether it be the 4th of July or wherever, be responsible. But dang it, let people have fun on the 4th of July.
I agree. Although, when I was a young guy, my college roommate came to visit over the Independence Day weekend, and I remember we decided about 1 o'clock in the morning to start shooting some of these things off. And the only thing that I remembered next was this heavy-footed sound coming down the stairs. Is my dad had heard this, and I could hear the boom, 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 all the way, and then the door flung open, and I knew it was coming, and it wasn't very, very nice. And 1 o'clock in the morning might have been a
That'd
little
probably
too.
be a little late. And if you've got fireworks, you're going to do them. If people are going to be cool about it and let you shoot them off, be respectful to them. You should probably have that thing wrapped up by 11 o'clock.
I will say though, I did cringe a little today when I was on Facebook and I saw the article that said today was I think the first legal day you can whatever use fireworks and buy them and whatever, and I'm like, my gosh, I'm gonna have like a couple weeks of like 2 o'clock in the morning here, boom, boom. I'm glad I don't live in town anymore.
Yeah, be respectful to people. If they're going to be cool and let you use them, you be cool about the time that you do use them.
And
Another thing too is you're gonna be firing off fireworks. Some people, during the day anyway, I like to go out and go shooting. Just, celebrate my Second Amendment freedoms. Be safe. Remember, you don't fire these things up in the air. Okay, the bullets got to come down somewhere. Let's be responsible. Shoot at a good backstop. Probably shouldn't shoot much at night.
Well, we got to remember too that a lot of times when you hear people behaving badly with firearms, it's usually in one of these neighbor situations. Years ago, I remember reading a story on the AP wire where a guy got angry with his neighbor. His neighbor was mowing the grass at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and he literally popped open his bedroom window and took a shot at this fellow while he was on his riding mower. Uh, that's a no-no, and that gives people who own firearms a bad name sometimes when somebody does something really stupid like that.
Yeah, the point to actually produce a firearm is, it is like a very small window. First of all, if there's a chance to leave the situation, you just get out of the situation.
Tool of last resort.
Yeah, it's the last thing that you use. If you're in a corner or someone's in a corner and there's imminent danger, then you use it. Up to that point, if there's a way to alleviate the situation, you should do that. Because people are, the world's just kind of a jumpy place right now.
If someone is shooting off fireworks at 2 a.m., the thing is call law enforcement first. Don't go out there and start trouble in that situation.
And you don't know what you're walking into either. I mean, they could be drunk and shooting them off, and you're putting yourself into a situation you don't know. Just let law enforcement do its job.
We were all kids at one point.
Yeah.
I know we forget that. They could be 11-year-old kids out there with some fireworks and lighting them off and oblivious, because kids don't think, let's face that. And then you walk up to some 11-year-old kids and produce a firearm. You're going to scare them, and B, you're going to go to jail.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you're not going to have the right to carry a firearm anymore because it's probably going to be a felony. So, yeah, use your head on that.
Yeah.
And we have to deal with this for a week once a year, but we're celebrating our independence, and
Yep.
let's do it. Let's celebrate it.
I noticed, when you think about kids, when you're grocery shopping and you watch them all over the aisles, they're in your way a lot, but because they're seeing something and they're going for it, they don't think about what's on either side of them or who's behind them. And when they're out shooting off fireworks, it's just this is fun. They're not necessarily thinking they may be waking up the neighborhood. Before we wrap up, contact information.
Washington Street Pond, 321 Washington Street. We're right across from Platt Electric. We're 3 blocks south of Addison on Washington. 208-735-0012. You can find us on Facebook under Washington Street Pond. Stop in the store, say hey. We got a ton of stuff. Like I said, if you need a laptop, I just had a whole bunch of coins. We sold out the last of those. I've still got some silver there, though. And we've got everything from game systems to jewelry to computers to tools to stereo equipment. We've got everything in there. So stop in, and if you don't see the gun that you want, a lot of people walk in and be like, oh, I thought you'd have more guns. We're a little shop with a lot of stuff crammed into it. If you don't see what you want, we're a Class 3 dealer. We can get you everything from suppressors, anything out there made, we can order it. So stop in, and if you don't see it, we can order it, and we'll probably beat their price or match it. And all of our guns come with a lifetime warranty on them.
Todd.
Yeah, you can call me. You can text me. Area code 620-794-6223. That's area code 620-794-6223. My next permit class is on July 29th. I got plenty of spots for that. If you want to get signed up, maybe learn how to draw your firearm, we can set up another class for that. Just get a hold of me. Find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense. And everyone have a good weekend.
Going to be a good weekend. Todd is going for a long run in the heat this weekend. We'll talk more about that next week after he survives it. It's coming up on 10 o'clock. Rush Limbaugh will follow the news from Fox. Bill Cowley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com. God willing, the creek don't rise. They'll allow me to come back and do this all over again Monday morning between 8 and 10 o'clock.